Good morning, good afternoon to you all. My name is Edward Bale from Makerere University. I am the Environment for Development Initiative Center Director at Makerere University. I'm also the country lead for the Inclusive Green Economy Capacity Building Program for senior civil servants and policy makers. And today it is very exciting to bring you a topic as one of our areas of focus, the sustainable energy transitions in Uganda, and I will focus on the role of energy efficiency. Welcome. My presentation is guided by a very simple outline. I'll introduce the whole thing and then look at Uganda's energy profile, then energy efficiency and the transitions, and then I'll conclude with a few policy recommendations. Starting with the global picture, the Sustainable Development Goals that are guiding the global aspirations, we note that Sustainable Development Goal 7 looks at affordable and clean energy for all, where we must be accessible to clean energy, reliable energy, and also in the energy mix, there must be renewable energy. But most importantly for this lecture of today, there must be energy efficiency. And once all those that I've mentioned are taken care of, then there are some critical, very important benefits, technological benefits, health benefits, education benefits, employment benefits, but also environmental benefits. And if all these ones are combined, which are called the enablers of sustainable development, the energy enablers of sustainable development, then we can attain sustainable development. Now, I want to look at Uganda's energy profile. There has been a steep increase in the capacity installed by 32% from about 1,400 megawatts in 2022 to about 1,800 megawatts in 2023. But also, there is a promise to increase this capacity by 600 megawatts from Karuma hydropower station. And the diagram on my left actually speaks to that, showing the installed capacity in totality, but also breaks that down into the hydropower, and hydropower dominates, and then the solar power, the thermal power, and the bagasse electricity. And on my right, we see that renewable energy accounted for almost all of Uganda's installed energy in 2023. And this is attributed to the dominancy of hydroelectricity supply, actually taking over 80%. And when we look at the energy sector, we see that there are different, the four subsectors, and this is in terms of energy demand. The residential, this is the building sector, they are the most consumers in Uganda. Then the industrial, the second most consumers. Then the commercial or institutional, the third most, and lastly, agriculture and fisheries being the fourth in terms of energy consumption. And the diagram on my right is showing exactly the fact that households actually dominate in energy consumption, in which case it means that the building sector is the leading consumer of energy in Uganda, both renewable and non-renewable. But it also speaks to the fact that the industrial sector is not very much developed in Uganda, although actually it comes second in terms of energy demand and energy consumption. But now I would like to speak to the greenhouse gas business as usual emissions. It is projected to increase from 90.1 gigograms of carbon dioxide equivalent in 2015 to around 148.8 gigograms of carbon dioxide equivalent in 2030. But if business as usual continues, then it will grow to 235 gigagrams of carbon dioxide equivalent in 2050. But the main contributing sectors is agriculture, forestry, and land use. And that is the green in that diagram that is over there. But at the same time, other sectors like energy, transport, excluding energy, are significant contributors, and we cannot keep quiet about it. We cannot take it as usual, but some serious measures must be taken. However, Uganda as a country has made pledges, the nationally determined contributions, to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by a total of 24.7% by 2030. And this one is distributed amongst the main contributing sectors. Agriculture, forestry, and other land use will contribute a total of 20.4%. And then energy, 1.57%. I have highlighted energy here in green to highlight the fact that our lecture today, this talk will concentrate a lot more on energy. And then there are other subsectors that will contribute a total of 2.7%, that from transport, from waste, and then from industrial processes and products. But allow me to speak again to energy and conjecture that without energy efficiency, it might be very difficult to attain reductions in emissions that would actually come from energy sector. And so for us to have reduced emissions, to have sustainable energy transitions, it is critical that countries invest in energy efficiency. And this lecture, this talk, concentrates a lot on energy efficiency. And then this begs a question to what is energy efficiency? Energy efficiency refers to basically the demand for less energy to perform the same tasks. And this means that there is overall lower demand for energy, but it also means that there is lower energy intensity. But also it means that there will be lower greenhouse gas emissions, and ultimately there will be a shift towards clean energy sources. But now, after answering that question, then another question comes in. How does energy efficiency actually facilitate or enhance transition? There are a number of aspects. The very first one is the reduction in energy demand, meaning basically there is a limited pressure that is exerted on energy systems. And as a result, then this leads to a smoother transition towards cleaner energy sources. That is one. But number two, and very important, leads to cost savings and economic benefits. It means that customers, whether industrial or residential, will face lower energy bills. And so part of their savings will be invested in innovative investments to entrench sustainable energy technologies. But also, part of the savings can be invested in other sectors of the economy. And the other one, number three, is the energy security. So if there is low demand for energy, it makes it very easy to manage the intermittency of transition to renewable sources. There is no pressure on the energy system, and therefore the intermittency, that transitional sort of gaps that exist as you move from dirty to cleaner energy is managed because there is limited pressure. And so this leads to enhanced energy security. The very last one is the environmental and social impact. Because of the reduced carbon dioxide emissions, it means that there is improved health, there is more comfort, at household level, and this one originates from the reduced household air pollution, for example, and there are clear health benefits. And these benefits may not come if we have energy wastages, if we have energy leakages, and where we need to spend a lot of money on energy and possibly even fall back to the dirty energy. We need to note at this point that without efficiency, it means that there is a lot of wastage. And if there is a lot of wastage, it is associated with very high costs of actually using any form of energy. And this means that this makes households, industries vulnerable. Falling back, if you are on the knife edge, then you're likely to fall back into the older, worst position. But with these four aspects, I'm trying to argue that energy efficiency can facilitate sustainable energy transition. Without it, it becomes very difficult. But now, allow me to speak to the policy instruments for energy efficiency and appreciate what can governments do, governments in developing countries, governments in developed countries, what can they do? Or put differently, those countries that have succeeded into this type of transition, what have they done? And the first one is grouped under the regulatory instruments, and part of it is the standards and labels. And we have what we call the minimum energy performance standards on appliances, can be electricity bulbs, can be vehicles, can be on buildings, and these standards are maintained and followed. But also, in terms of the labels, then it means that we are giving customers information to differentiate the inefficient appliances from the more efficient ones. The second one can be building codes. This has to do with the requirements on new buildings. How can you install systems that are more energy efficient? That's the question. It can also be in terms of renovations, where if you follow the building code, then you must install appliances or systems like heating, and others that are more energy efficient. And so it has to do with the installed systems. The second group is the economic instruments, the subsidies or tax incentives. This one plays a role of lowering the cost of energy efficient technologies. Once the government subsidizes, or once the government gives a tax incentive, then it means that it reduces the cost of installing, the cost of gaining access to this. But it can also be working both on the demand side, the consumer side, but also on the producer side, the suppliers of these technologies. The other one can be a more not punitive, but definitely the opposite of subsidy, the taxes. But we are giving an example here that a tax can be on the fossil fuels, and this tax may be revenue neutral in such a way that the proceeds are invested in energy efficient technologies, the energy efficient alternatives. The third one under the economic instruments is the tradable energy efficiency certificates. And here it means that there might be consumers of energy in industry and otherwise that actually exceed the energy efficiency targets. And then these ones can be in a position to sell their savings or their surplus to others. And this one creates a market-driven approach, which is actually more interesting. The third group is basically informational instruments. And the first one under that is the information campaigns, public awareness, where the public is educated on the importance of energy efficiency. If you install an efficient cooker at home, when you install an efficient bulb at home, and others, maybe in agriculture, in irrigation, energy efficient pumps and all those. So in this case, they are trying to inform the public through campaigns. The other one is, about audits. Many people, if you're doing something, people fear to be audited, financially to be audited, but government can audit, energy usage. And with the main objective, basically, of advising how can you save more energy than you are using. And so government can reach out to businesses, to industries, can also reach out to households and audit them with an objective of helping them to improve efficiency aspects. The fourth one is voluntary agreements, the public-private partnerships, where there can be voluntary agreements between government and businesses or industries to set up ambitious energy efficiency targets. These may not be punitive at the end of the day. And then the second under that is the corporate social responsibility. Installing energy efficient technology, being energy efficient as an industry, and therefore release less emissions, less pollution from your activities can be part of the corporate social responsibility. The fifth and the last group that I'm going to speak about, there may be others, is the cap and the trade system for energy efficiency. And this one means that a government may set a cap on the use of energy in specific sectors. And this one allows those that have a surplus to sell or to trade with other entities. And lastly, under this is energy efficiency obligations, and this one requires the suppliers of energy, but also the distributors of energy to achieve a certain amount of energy savings. So these are the instruments that can aid the transition to cleaner energy. How can we attain efficiency? But now, after looking at what is energy efficiency, looking at how can it, enhance transition, and what are those policy instruments that are available, I want to give an example of Uganda so far. Where are we? How far Uganda has gone into this? And I want to say that Uganda is not doing so well in terms of energy efficiency. It was the 11th highest on energy intensity measure. Energy intensity means that actually you are highly energy inefficient. The higher it is, you are inefficient. Out of 95 countries was the 11th highest in 2019. And then when we compare with the selected countries, the diagram on my left, between 2000 to 2001, we see that Uganda has the highest energy intensity. It reduced from 0.3 to about 0.2, but despite that, again, it remained highest. But we have also mentioned before that the building sector is the greatest consumer of energy in Uganda. And we also note that the majority of houses in Uganda are not connected to the grid. And because of that, they depend a lot on biomass for their energy. But at the same time, that means that they have very high energy intensity, and also it also means that they are very high. They are very energy inefficient. So, if you are using biomass, it means that relatively to the activities you are using too much energy. So, very high energy intensity, and if you are along the intensity measure, it is very high, then you are also energy inefficient. And the housing sector in Uganda is not an exception in this. And the diagram here shows that actually between 2000 and 2001, as you can see, the wood fuel dominates all the others in the residential, but also even in other buildings, in which case it means that you are not connected to the grid. And when you're not connected to the grid, you depend on the biomass. And when you depend on biomass, then you are your energy intensity is very high, and then also you are highly energy inefficient. And if I speak to after the buildings, the appliances and lighting, I will give an example. In 2007, the government procured about 800 compact fluorescent light bulbs for distribution, and actually succeeded in distributing 3 those energy efficient bulbs, light bulbs, in exchange of 3 ordinarily. And then some gains were realized. The electricity bill fell dramatically, but also the demand for energy fell by 32 megawatts during the period amongst the participating customers. This was like an experiment, and this was the results came out like that. But this program was expanded to other lighting products, although we did not gain access to the evaluation results. But now this goes with some challenges as well, because between 2011 and 2012, the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development and also the Uganda Bureau of Standards issued the voluntary minimum energy performance standards for lighting, refrigerators, freezers, motors, and air conditioners. But now this one was dampened by the absence of a legal and a regulatory framework on which National Bureau of Standards or Uganda Bureau of Standards would stand to enforce such standards. So a regulatory framework is critical if we must succeed in gaining efficiency in the energy sector. But also there is lack of the testing equipment and facilities. How do you test those that are largely energy efficient against those that are largely energy inefficient? And that one defeats the whole. You may not be in position to differentiate between the counterfeits that are, very energy efficient, those counterfeits that are actually killing a household. You can bring a cook stove in your house, and in one week, all the units you purchased on electricity go down in 1 week. So we need to have a way this one can be tested. Allow me to speak to the transport sector. And this is very critical in Uganda because we have very old vehicles. Our vehicles are predominantly very old, inefficient when you compare to the global averages. And in 2023, our cars were about 15 years old, and this is compared to Kenya, that is about 8 years old. And also it has been established that the light-duty vehicles consume 25% more fuel compared to the counterparts at a global level. However, the country has undertaken some initiatives to promote electric mobility for both the two-wheelers, the motorcycles, but also the cars. And the government has set a target to electrify 30% of motorcycles by the year 2030. But also, there was a very wonderful path-breaking initiative of the Kira Motors Corporation. This originated from Makerere University's project, a research project where, the intention was to come up with an electric powered vehicle, and through the Kira Motors Corporation, and it is doing a wonderful job. Now in Uganda, there are electric buses. It is commonly known as Kayola buses, and it came from that. But also the GIZ has given some support to Uganda to establish the e-mobility charging stations, and 4 of them have been launched. So along transport, despite the old fleet that we have, efforts to electrify is coming up amidst some challenges, definitely. And then Allow me to speak to the agriculture sector, the inefficient equipment, the machinery, the tractors in terms of fuel consumption, the pumps that pump the water for irrigation and all that. And also there is a limited conversion of agriculture waste into energy. But government has also has taken steps to promote solar irrigation, and through the Ministry of Agriculture, but also through the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, efforts are underway. But I want to say that all these things meet limited government budget, but also meet the affordability aspects on part of the consumers. Affordability coming to limit the extent to which a smallholder farmer can actually irrigate. In Uganda, as I speak, this is supposed to be a rainy season. And it is our longest rainy season, and many of us who are ready to grow crops. Personally, I've already grown my coffee, but I'm suffering because the sun has refused to go down. The rains are not coming. They have taken a little bit longer. But again, it requires a lot of money that you install these irrigation facilities. But again, where people can afford, they use generators that use fossil fuels, which actually emit a lot of, greenhouse gases. But in addition to actually wastage, there's no efficiency in the use of the generators. And so there is need to increase uptake of more efficient technologies. Maybe in the policy recommendations, I will try to recommend on how this can be done. In terms of the services and industry, the government is committed to energy audits. I said before, government can, through an advisory role, audit the industrial sector, the household sector. And so far in Uganda, over 120 energy audits have taken place, but also 60 energy auditors who are certified. However, many recommendations that came out of these audits have never been implemented. And this is probably due to lack of binding regulations, incentives and available finance, and also lack of confidence by the owners in terms of they are not sure whether the recommended installations or the recommended investments in the newer technologies will actually generate benefits. But also, the minimum energy performance standards are in place for the industrial motors. However, these are generally not enforced and monitored. In terms of policy recommendations, it is therefore important that the legal and regulatory framework that will help to enforce energy efficiency measures be put in place. And at the same time, there's need for financing instruments for the uptake. The transition to efficient energy technologies, I must say that it is expensive. An average citizen may not be able to afford, but there should be some financing instruments that can, help to increase accessibility. But also the enforcement of the minimum energy performance standards, the need for the testing equipment and facilities is very, very important. But also in the houses, in the building sector, we noted they are the major consumers of energy, but there is need to increase efficiency. There's need to reduce intensity in the building sector by promoting clean cooking. But at the same time, whereas we talked about audits as being advisory, it is important that these audits are legalized for larger industries who are the main consumers of energy, and also, so that the recommendations from energy audits can be, enforced. And then government should be able to check in the next round to make sure that these industries actually performed the recommended investments. And then the other one is to improve the vehicle fuel efficiency through limiting the age of the imported vehicles, but also e-mobility is wonderful. When I'm moving around the streets of Sweden in Gothenburg here, I can note very many electric cars. I can see charging stations and what have you, which is a really very good example to emulate. But in terms of regional, we are in the East African community, and Rwanda, Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, and others. We need efforts to make sure that we have regional standards in terms of appliances. And thanks to the leading role that Tanzania has played in, trying to identify cooking equipment that are more energy efficient. The president of Tanzania herself was the main champion trying to advocate for efficient cooking in Tanzania, which I think we in the region must emulate, make sure that the equipments are of the right standards. These equipments meet the minimum energy performance standards and what have you as a region. Otherwise, because our borders are porous, there can be leakages and smuggling of items, which will basically make it difficult for us to have the real recommended standards. And lastly, to increase awareness, the campaigns, mindset change, letting the people know about the energy-saving appliances, and then letting those companies that supply them, that sell them, known, so that people can go and access them much more easily, but also at a lower price. I want to thank you very much for listening to this video, and I invite you for the next video when time comes. Thank you.